Hey everybody, I'm live with ultraHealth Agency. They're experts in medical staffing, so they're here to answer number one, any of your questions on how you can improve your chances on getting hired. And then on the other side, if you're a facility, they're here to answer any questions on how to hire the right type of people during, coronavirus, after coronavirus, how the climate may change and how to put those people in the right places. So drop any HR questions, hiring questions that you have in the comments, because everyone's gonna introduce themselves and then we're gonna be answering your questions. So Julia, you wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Julia Samaniego. I am the Director of Talent Acquisition. I do the actual recruiting of healthcare professionals. That could be from nurses to, medical technicians. So yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Dane.
Hey, Mike.
Awesome.
My name is Dane
next.
Flanagan. I take care of the facilities here at ultraHealth. So taking care of the care facilities, making sure our contracts are together, and making sure that that when you ask for a candidate, that we supply good people for you.
Mm-hmm. And Mike?
Awesome. My name is Mike Wright. I am the guru at ultraHealth. I take care of all the marketing aesthetics and graphics and videos and everything that makes ultraHealth look pretty. You're welcome.
So let's talk about one way that they really differentiate in their process. And obviously COVID-19, they've had to pivot to do this in a virtual space, but it's still the same, right? It's still the same process, is that they really look beyond the resume. And I think, Julia, you're a real expert at this, and a lot of people really wish that recruiters would take that time. But what do you really look for in a resume, in an interview? Give anybody tips on how they could improve their chances on getting hired.
Yeah, definitely. So at ultraHealth, we really focus on the details. So I really spend a lot of time going through resumes. We sit down with the facilities. We really try to nail down what they're looking for. That allows me to have better insight when I'm looking at the resumes. Mm-hmm. And I take my time. It may take me a little longer, but it's better to have the right person and the right match. I comb through them. I make sure they have the minimum qualifications. Mm-hmm. And then what's different about ultraHealth is our screening process, our interviewing process, and then our credentialing process. So a couple of things. Once they pass the first stage, mm-hmm. The phone interview is big for me. That's where I'm able to talk to them, get to know them a little better, see what their interests are. For me, knowing what the candidate is looking for is everything. Right. So what they want, what they need, that's what we try to do. So even if we have a facility that's looking to hire someone and it's not a right fit, maybe it's okay. My job is to find them what's right for them. Right. So we bring them in. Mm-hmm. Obviously, right now we can't do that. Right. A lot of agencies don't do in-person interviews, but we do. We focus on the Southern California area, specifically San Gabriel, so that allows us to do that. Mm-hmm. And then we do an in-person interview. Right now we're obviously doing things like this, video conferencing and whatnot, but it gives us an opportunity to really get to know these people. And so when we submit them, it's genuine, it's authentic. So that's kind of our initial process.
So Raz Khan has a great question. Sure. Hey, Janae, a question for the speakers today. How do you ensure you employ people who can deliver but are also diverse talent?
Yeah, definitely. So our process allows us to do that, right? So we get to know them, but we have what's really, I think, unique about us is we don't just submit our candidates. We do in-house credentialing. So we look at everything. We look at their background. We look at where they've worked, and we look at who they are as people. Culture is really important to us. What their needs are really important to us. So it's kind of like a whole package deal. What we're looking for.
And Dane, maybe you want to take this question from Dial. A lot of the employers on this thread are asking, now we have to conduct interviews and hire people and kind of find out who they are over the phone. So how, like, from an employer point of view, like, how do you know what to ask or what to look for if you can't even meet them? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's kind of following up what Julia said. It is finding out more about them, but also finding out about what their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
And if the goals of what they're trying to do aligned with what the business is trying to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Certain facilities, certain businesses, even certain units within a business, they have different goals. The finance goal might be different than the human resources goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like the orthopedics goal might be different from the back end billing goal.
Mm-hmm.
And we find that in different physician office. We see that in different facilities that even though you might be at the same care facility, they might have different goals or different things they're trying to do with the patient, different things they're trying to do with technology, different things they're trying to do with their strategy of the overall company than say another part of the business. So we just have to know which business wants to do what, but we have to understand that from the employer side.
Right. And there's people in here right now that are asking, do you only work in California or do you work in, there's a woman asking in Florida and then an employer asking, do you help with staffing in Texas as well? So do you want to answer that?
Yes, we can help. Our main focus has been on being able to understand the employer's structure, their atmosphere, and also their culture. It's big to us. Getting a chance to get to see the facility, getting to meet them in person. So that way, when we're introducing a candidate, it's not just, oh, we've talked to them. It's like, we know them. We've been to their place. We've seen what you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis. We see who you'll be working with. It's more of a personal. So yes, we can. It's just, at this time, it's just more time consuming, and it's just about getting to know what we're putting our candidates into.
Right. And how do you guys think, like, the spotlight is on healthcare right now, and we're experiencing that because obviously we serve healthcare companies. I know you are experiencing that. So how do you think that this epidemic is going to kind of change the climate when it comes to medical staffing, when it comes to companies knowing that, like, putting the people in the right places is so invaluable? You know what I mean? It's just priceless because the companies that did that, their people are showing up every day, their culture has remained intact. And the companies that didn't are like, you know, their culture is crumbling right now. So how do you think that this will change the medical staffing climate in general?
I think it's understanding that even before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
there was a large emphasis on healthcare. Healthcare has always been, for the past 10 years, one of our top 3 industries. I
Mm-hmm.
think now what you're going to see on a worldwide basis is that people are going to put a lot more emphasis on pre-healthcare conditions, things that happen beforehand.
Right.
And we've seen that through what we call local community clinics.
Mm-hmm.
These larger facilities starting to build things within people's neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens now when we need more preventative care, not just from a standpoint of younger people, but also older people, but now also we're going to have young adults need to visit these clinics. So we're going to see more of these clinics, I think, from our bigger, larger facilities are going to be more in neighborhood, more in-house, because you can't have everybody at these large hospitals, which we're just starting to find out now. We need more local clinics that they can go visit. They can have more telehealth.
Right.
There's so much communication that we can do over the phone and through video now that we need to take advantage of that. And I think if we could put a shade on an epidemic or a pandemic like this has been, it has been that our communication through this, through things like Zoom, through things like StreamYard, through things like LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, will be that we can have that communicative preference to have a video call, to have a communication just as we would in person.
Now, this is a really good question too. So from Kevin Brown, we're answering your question. How do I find an unemployed but ambitious physician who will have the courage to give patients control over their healthcare choice? So how do people in hospitals, like, find unemployed physicians to begin with? How do you guys help with that?
So I can answer that. You know, I would say initially it's just a basic search, right? So it's having that communication with the facility and building that relationship, and, you know, with the hiring manager, their in-house recruiter, the talent advisor, whoever it may be, right? Having that connection, making those relationships, understanding what their needs are, what they're looking for. then that's something Dane would handle, right? And we would be able to translate that into finding that right candidate. So we use whatever means possible. We use, grassroots type recruiting. We use, obviously online is huge. Our in-person interviews. What's really great though is that although we're in this climate right now, it's really allowed us to expand where we need to do. So when we expand this way, it allows us to be able to meet more people. So, finding the physicians, in some cases for us, it's just a role that we need to fill, and then we need to fill the right role. So whether it's a nurse, whether it's a CNA or a physician, we treat it the same and just as much importance as any other position.
Mm-hmm. And now, a really good question. This is from a public health professional. So what do you suggest to people with no experience in the health sector? Either, let's say, they're changing industries and, they just graduated, or they're just new to the workforce in general. What do you suggest for people with no experience?
So yeah, we've come into we've experienced that issue. I know here in Los Angeles, California, a lot of times, say for new grads, a lot of employers require at least 2 years experience. Mm-hmm. So we meet with these recent grads and they ask, well, we're going to school, we've done our clinicals, but we can't get a job. We don't have that experience.
Right.
So what we do is, initially when we started out, we really wanted to help people like that, so we suggest when we bring them in, and if they're applying for a certain role where we know it's not going to happen, they don't have the experience, mm-hmm. We ask them and see if they'll start maybe at a lower role, one where they could get their feet in the door and to be able to grow within the organization. So they could get that experience, that 1 year experience, that 2 year experience, and move on. If somebody doesn't have the healthcare experience at all, and it's not mm-hmm. so much nursing or physician or anything like that, mm-hmm. we do the same approach. We want to help them get their foot in the door, be able to explore this area in this field.
Okay, now for a so this person's saying, what if you need a doctor to not just practice, but understand EHRs and everything? So do you guys customize do you help them with the creation, with the marketing and everything of what they're looking for? Of finding people?
Yeah, it's really understanding what their needs are, okay. what their culture is, and also what the job responsibilities are too. I think Julia can speak more into this, but it's so important when you're talking to these people that they understand what they're going to be doing, because a lot of these people are coming from specialized fields. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter if it's clinical or administrative, there's still certain things that they're able to do, and there's certain things that they would need to learn in a new position.
And let's talk about that, because medical staffing, what is medical staffing? Do you only help with the staffing of nurses, physicians, or do you also help with administrative roles as well?
We help with administrative as well. It's really just defining anything within that clinical care or that care facility. Mm-hmm. But it's more a point as the administrator or working with the executive staff to them to relay to us in a detailed manner as to what they're looking for as far as that individual.
Mm-hmm. And Julia, as a recruiter, I know that you published a post that was it's really important during these times to have patience. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to other recruiters that may be listening or that may listen once this live ends? Why should they have patience and with the potential candidates right now, given the circumstances of the world?
Yeah. So I've been at both ends of the spectrum, right? I've been the employee sitting in for an interview, and now, I'm the one giving interviews. I've been in HR now for quite some time, doing recruitment as well. I always felt that, you should have a level of empathy, a level of being able to read people. Mm-hmm. So I think right now, especially in this climate, you need to have some patience, some flexibility. From that post that you mentioned, I got a lot of responses of people, really appreciating that them going on these virtual interviews and having technical difficulties, having, families come in, dogs come in, whatever it is, and people being impatient with them and not even taking the video, sending up a follow email. It's not worth their time. Yeah, it's so rude. It's so, and I wrote in the article, everyone's doing their best. They're showing up, they're, looking for a job, whether they were laid off or, there's just not enough work out there. So I think it's really important to be patient, to be flexible. And I would say that in general, that's kind of how I work. I really try to listen to the people I'm interviewing. I try to read them, read between the lines, ask them questions. It's professional, it's formal, but I have a genuine interest in them as well. So I feel that shows, and that makes them feel at ease. Interviews are nerve-wracking, so it really, I think if you make them feel comfortable, they'll put their best forward, and that's what you want.
Yeah, Dr. Mark Williams says empathy, like in all caps, and it's so true. Empathy is so important at this time. It's like you said, everyone is doing their best, and some of these, clinical job candidates, they're single parents, and they may have walk in or whatever. Jean says this is very helpful for us working in the healthcare industry. Thank you, Jean. And we're like, tell me how you can. Okay. So what advice would you give to people who aren't recent graduates, but let's say they have 15 years of experience in tech or IT and they're shifting to the healthcare industry? Is there any transferable skills or recommendations that you have if you're 40 years old and you're just entering the healthcare industry?
So we actually interviewed somebody yesterday for a director of operations role within healthcare. This person has had over 20 years executive experience. He wanted to transition into this role. This role was in a hospital setting. His background is healthcare IT, operations, marketing, in different aspects of health and other fields, but it didn't necessarily translate over to this specific job. We learn from our candidates as well, right? So talking to these people, it also gives us insight on how they made transitions into healthcare. What this gentleman did was he started out as doing IT. That was what he knew. Operations, that's what he knew. So he sought out positions where he can apply his skills, where they were transferable. I would say that if you were able to do that, kind of same idea, get your foot in the door, be able to have those skills to transfer over. It'll show that you're an asset and that you'll be able to contribute to whatever you're applying for, whatever role it may be. And that allows you to, move up where you need to. It gives you that experience that you need. And if you need to want to move on, there's a role that you really want. It gives you, that platform to be able to do that.
Now, moving, and Dr. Mark Williams says, you guys are great. Thanks, show. I love this topic. Only apply for jobs. What about this? Somebody say only apply for jobs for which you are qualified. Is that true?
Yes and no. You can be qualified for a job, but maybe it's not the right fit, Obviously, if there's a job for a physician and you didn't go to medical school, you have no experience, please don't apply. But we've had candidates who have the experience, it's just maybe not in healthcare, or some of the people, our clients that we work with, they're very specific on the requirements. They might want an acute setting, they might want somebody who has outpatient clinical skills, and if this person has, the basic qualifications, but they haven't worked in those environments, they're not going to be a right fit. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to consider them, make sure we keep them in mind for other roles that might come up.
That's true. Now, Dane, what do you, for the employers, like if they have somebody in-house that's doing HR, that's helping with the staffing, where does, the benefit of hiring an agency or hiring someone like your agency come in? Like, I know the benefit because it's saving time, energy. You guys are the experts at this, but how would you really break that down?
No, we're a supplement to what they're currently doing in their human resources. I think one thing that that ultraHealth does and we do as individuals is we're there to help, and we realize that it's difficult running a 24/7 facility. And also too, it's not only running the facility, but staffing the facility and taking time for interviews, going through the process, and we're there to help. I think one thing that staffing agencies do in general is they alleviate a lot of the running around that the human resources has to do. And one thing that we do as ultraHealth is we take that interpersonal care of getting to know our candidates, and then bringing forth candidates that are worthy and credentialed for that position. So it's really a supplement to what they're currently doing in their human resources.
That's great. So Jean McCortez, with the situation we are in, how can we help fix or help stabilize the revenue cycle management process in healthcare? Do you guys have any tips on that? I know that's a huge question to tackle.
Say that one more time, please.
How could we help stabilize RCM, revenue cycle management, just in healthcare in general?
It hurts to sometimes to talk about money or dollars when you're dealing with healthcare, but we know that that's what pays the bills. I think one thing that we need to look at as far as the revenue management, as far as a healthcare system, as far as our insurance goes, is how can we streamline it, right? We can streamline it through technology. We can streamline it through preventative care. And we can also streamline it through putting more qualified people into these positions. We're finding out now, which was the case 6 months and was the case a year ago, it was the case 2 years ago, that these facilities are understaffed.
Right.
And that's one thing that helps with that. One thing that hurts with your revenue is when you can't fill it to capacity. It's another thing too, when you look at some of the lawsuits and liabilities that are going to be opened up to now as well, is because people are coming into these facilities that aren't staffed or that weren't they didn't have the equipment base to handle some of these conditions that arose.
Right. I mean, it's true. Dr. Mark Williams says you could be a fit in the organization, but not a certain position. Do you want to answer? That's true, right? Because you could be a fit within a company, but if you're not in the right place within that company, it could feel like a nightmare for both the employer and the employee.
Yeah, it's not a right fit.
And honestly, one of your posts this week also touched on the fact that what everyone here listening needs to understand is that we spend more time at work doing almost anything else in our lives. Literally, I think only sleep. When you look at statistics, it's literally sleep, and then the second thing we invest most of our time in is work. So if you're not even fulfilled or kind of feel like you're progressing, growing, developing in your workplace, and you took the time to invest in a healthcare degree, healthcare credentials, and what are it's time to audit. You're probably not in a company that fits your morals, values, and vision. And there's companies out there that really need, staff, because that's a huge thing, especially in long-term care. Coming up in the next 10 years, there's going to be a huge need for long-term care facilities and hospitals to retain their staff. It's going to be super competitive because the demand is going to be so high. So, and how do you retain your staff? It's not just about salary. We could talk about that. People want more than just, 50 more cents an hour or whatever. They want to be treated like people. And that's really where creating that culture comes in, and putting the right people in the right places is invaluable to creating a healthy culture, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to when I was speaking on us understanding what their needs are. Part of our setup, our initiative it's a whole package deal, right? So we do the search, we do the marketing, we do the placement, we do the follow-ups, right? Their natural recruiting. But if they're not happy at where they're at, we always tell them, let us know. We're going to keep an open line of communication. It's important that their needs are being met, that they're happy. We've had people who have been in the industry for over 20 years, 30 years, close to even retirement. they just want to be happy. They want to be comfortable where they work. They want to be a part of a team. And you should enjoy going to work. I mean, I know I do. I love my team, and it makes our job so much easier. We have a good time, we have fun, but we all know, what needs to get done. We each have our roles. So it's, I think that should be applied across the board to all industries.
100%.
Mike, can you add to that as well?
Mike?
Say again?
Can you add to that as well?
About working within a team and developing a culture. I think that is very important. When we look at some of the greatest accomplishments in the world have all been accomplished by a cohesive team with a unified vision. And I think that the culture in which you're working in absolutely is paramount to the output that culture is going to produce.
Mm-hmm. And people are saying, like very valuable comments. So being a valued member of a company is everything. Even if the pay is less. So this is a great topic because some people will actually leave their employer to go somewhere where the pay may be less, but the culture, the support, the opportunity for growth is more. So what do you think, like, for somebody looking for employment, the 3 things that they should look at other than salary? And we'll end with that.
I mean, I can say for me, and I think it's really important, especially, today, is culture. Mm-hmm. I think doing your research on a company, on a hospital, knowing ahead of time what you're getting into, reading reviews, other people that work. I think it's important, kind of.
Where can they read reviews on other people? Because some people don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously online's a great resource. They can go on Glassdoor, they can go to their actual pages themselves. I mean, people are very vocal. They're gonna tell you what they think, what they feel, and you take that with a grain of salt, but you have to kind of make your own judgments based off that. But I know, at least for me, in my own personal career and to people that I've spoken with, money isn't everything. They want that balance in life. They want to be happy where they're working, and healthcare, it's so rewarding. They should be able to appreciate that and the people that they work with. So that's what I think.
So we have actually a good question, and we'll actually end with this question. So what is the major requirement for being a health finance manager? Do you recommend candidates to have an MHA or MBA in regards to, wanting to work in on the finance side of health industry?
It depends. So what I've seen is it kind of goes back to what the client's looking for. So sometimes they'll put specifically that they want a health care degree, health care administration degree. Sometimes they'll just say a bachelor's or equivalent experience. Most of the time, though, it is something in healthcare. We had somebody yesterday who had both. And my question to them was, was there a struggle, between having your business degree and having a healthcare degree, and they felt that it actually helped them. They're able to see both aspects of what they do. So it really just depends what the client's looking for.
That's great. And then Meredith is a savage. Meredith Shannon said, a toxic work environment is not worth any paycheck.
Nope. I agree, Shannon.
So true, right? Jean said, very rewarding. Laura said, I left my dream job producing vaccines because of that. What is supposed to be 1 year out became 4 years. Of course, I don't get paid as well, but I'm much happier. So, I mean, that's just something. And Sherilyn's saying the same thing. Great culture is important to me. And that's what employers, like, how do you guys relay this to the facilities you work with? Like, if you go on Glassdoor and you see that all their employees are like, saying negative things, like, how do you bring this up? Like, you may want to audit your work culture. How can a company that has a negative work culture and like kind of that negative PR online improve that?
I think they need to be receptive to it at first. They have to be willing to change. It's just like anything. They have to see it. they have to acknowledge it, and they have to admit that it's, holding them back.
That's true.
And
A lot
those
of
are the type
them
of
don't
facilities.
admit it.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people in general, right? Like they kind of feel like what they're doing is okay. But we want to work with those facilities that want to improve. We want to work with those facilities that want great people, but we also want to work with those facilities and those people that want to be in a good work environment, that want to be in a positive culture. I think that's where it starts.
I completely agree. Do you want
I would
to
just add really quickly, I would say as well as, it needs to be a right fit, right? So we're representing these people. So, that is something that we would tell them, this is important to them. Is that something that they can deliver? We read this, or somebody who used to work here mentioned this. Is that something that, is that true? And so if we can tell that it's not a right fit, we really don't want to send our candidate over knowing that they may in a month say, I'm out of here. So.
Now, let me ask you one more question, because it happens a lot to people. So I know a lot of people who the interview is great. They feel like the work description, like their job description is great, the culture is great. Then they start and their job description looks nothing like it does in their contract or on paper. Like they're being asked so much more, or it's just like it doesn't fit. So then they feel like they're getting almost taken advantage of or something. So what do you recommend to employers so that it's not like false advertising, and also to the employees that this happens to? Because I know it happens a lot.
It's the communication beforehand during the interview process. It's the understanding, but also too, it's if you get there and you're not happy, it's also talking with the management and your manager and discussing that. And that's where having a team behind you, like ultraHealth, helps, because it's the understanding that we have that relationship with that manager that we can go back and say, hey, you know what, maybe this employee isn't a great fit. Maybe not doing what they want to do. Maybe we got it wrong. And that's on us to making sure they're put in the right position. We want to always make sure that people can win, that they're in good positions to win, that they can take advantage of the placements that they're in.
And I think that what you brought up is so important, because I think a lot of employees have this false assumption sometimes that their managers are telepathic or immediately understand what they're feeling, and that's not true. Sometimes they aren't even aware of what you're feeling or what you may need or what you feel is missing for you to best perform your job. So I feel like they're just as responsible for, like you said, either hiring an agency like you guys to help communicate, or just respectfully communicating what they're feeling and needing to their management.
It's a relationship, right? You're building relationships, and any good relationship, you need open communication, and that translates over to this as well.
So Dr. Blake Clifford says culture is difficult to change. However, leadership must be open to change and must make it a mission in every interaction at all levels. And I think that that's true, whether it's, interacting with environmental services, your vendors that come in and clean the vents, like whatever it is, culture is everything on like he's saying, all levels. Andrea Palmer says skills can be always taught, a good personality can't. Ariana says, Andrea, get it, girl. Healthcare industry is an exciting career choice. Oh my gosh. Medical science. So what would you give, one more question, Lydia, what would you recommend for a recent grad with a pharmacy and a MPH degree?
I mean, we would try to see where their fit is, let's have a conversation, let's jump on a call. Let's see what you're looking for, what your needs are. And then our job is to find that, this is what you have to bring to the table. These are your skills. This is your education. This is your experience. You're coming to us looking for assistance with that. You did the work. Let us do the work now and try to find that right fit.
And I agree. And Ariana's like, yes, communication from both parties is required for success. And that's where ultraHealth can really help facilitate that. If you're looking for a position in healthcare, or you're looking to put the right people in the right places within your healthcare facility. And that said, we'll end this live, but I'm going to tag everyone who's on the live now, Julia, Dane, and Mike, in the description and also in the chat again. So make sure to connect with them. And if you have any hiring questions, any staffing questions, any questions on getting hired, then reach out to them because they're just a phenomenal team. Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
Shanae.
so much.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye.